Well, hello. Welcome everyone to Extra Hours. Uh, do not adjust your TV set. This is a Vision Pro experience. You're seeing this as personas. We have a panel of six tonight, and we are all on Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pros. We're going to see how well this goes. We've got some things to talk about the Vision Pro. And we can take some questions, some other sort of production questions and things as well. So we're glad that you are joining us. I want to just quickly introduce everyone. We've got Alex Lindsay. Hello, Alex.
Hello. I think I can put my hand
We
up there. And look at that. Can,
you can
can you
you can wave.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Look at that.
This is going to be a very different show because there is a little bit of sort of working out what we're doing. So just so people know, we are in Zoom. We've joined Zoom using the native Zoom client within the Apple Vision Pro, and that's how we're doing it. So then from an office hours point of view, we're still using Vector. We're still using Zoom Rooms to get the signal out of Zoom and into Vector, and all of that is the same. But all of those things that we would normally say about the best ways of joining Zoom are out the window. Um, we are not on Ethernet. We are not using high quality microphone, radio microphones. We are not doing special lighting. We are not using special cameras. All of those normal things. But anyway, sorry. So we've got Alex there. We've also got CJ. CJ's in the house as well. Hello there,
Hello,
sir.
hello.
It's
Happy
good
to
to
be
have
here.
you. Tell everyone where you're coming from again. I was trying to remember.
Sure. Coming from Cincinnati, Ohio. Just moved out here from the greater Philadelphia area recently. I'm a CIO for a manufacturing company and have been had the very good fortune of growing up as my dad was starting a business. And so when we couldn't afford to have a graphic designer on staff, he bought Photoshop and said, "Hey, learn this." And we needed a video, and he bought a camera and said, "Hey, you need to learn how to make a video." And so there were always things to do. And so probably about a year ago, I found the office hours community, and I was like, "This is my people." And now I'm a ghost on the internet. And I do Fridays. I do Fridays at office hours. You'll see me there.
That's right. Awesome. Thank you, CJ. It's great to have you with us. Then we've also got Craig McFarland. Craig, give us a little 30-second bio.
Sure. I'm Craig McFarland coming in from Boston, Mass. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out if I'm using my fingers or my mouse. But I'm a CTO of a software company, software and services company dealing with large infrastructure.
Very good. And you stumbled across office hours a while ago, and you've been a panelist a few times as well, right?
Yep. And I play around with a backend, helping do automation and integration between various backend bits.
And you picked up a Vision Pro early on?
Yeah, pretty much like a lot of people, as CTO, it's a good excuse to track changes in the tech industry and whatnot. And so this is definitely a change, glimpse of the future. May not be the exact future, but it's a glimpse.
Yep, agreed. All right, and then we have Jason Bache. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. Jason Bache coming in from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I met Alex years and years ago at NAB and started following him on Twitter and started with office hours from day one, meeting one, and God, 4 years ago now, and the rest is history.
Yeah, very good. And then to complete our panel tonight, we have Marcelo. Marcelo is from StreamVoodoo. Great to have you with us. Hello.
Hey, hello everyone. Hey, Grant. And Emmanuel here. Yes, like you said, StreamVoodoo. I'm one of the co-founders. And yeah, I met Alex Lindsay a couple of years ago when Office Hours started, and I was like very into it. And yeah, we are working lately on the Vision Pro, right? And doing this VodouSpatial, which is pretty mind-blowing for us. And yeah, it's basically having fun with technology, which we really like, and we hope everybody does it. Everybody does like it too. Yeah, we're super impressed, and I'm also sometimes member of the panel back in the day, and when the time allows me. That's it.
Yeah,
That's about it.
that's great, and it's great to have you with us tonight. I had this idea of having an all VisionPro panel when I was able to get mine in Australia. So I'm in Adelaide, South Australia, and when it became available just a few weeks ago now, I think I got it on day one, and there wasn't hundreds of people lining up to get theirs, but there was a few, and so I was able to get mine, and so then it was a good excuse to then do this. Now, what happened though, that it was great timing and the stars aligning for us, was the Twit special on Sunday was the last Twit episode in the East Side Studios. Is that what it was called? East Side?
Yep.
Alex? Yep. So Alex, how did that come about? Was it just your idea that you were like, oh, this is a good excuse to do, some
Yeah,
spatial?
I mean, I think that we've been playing around with it. So Marcelo and I have been talking about the camera, and we've been working on it, and it just seemed like such a great way to test it. And the idea was that you could really feel like you're just sitting and watching the show. And I thought that as a single camera experience, I mean, one of the things you look at is the best place for a spatial from the phone is really about, I would say, 4 to 8 feet. Like that's where all your spatial. And part of the challenge is that the interaxial distance between the camera is very small, and so between the two cameras, so you can't really look at things that are really big. You're not going to get as much dimensionality, and so I wanted to do something where we could do something that was 4 to 8 feet away, which is perfect for a table at Twit. And my curiousness, I wanted to see how viewable is it? Can people watch it for a while? Can people, is it something that makes you crazy at some point in time, or is it just something that you just feel like you're there? And this is the first time we were streaming something for 2 hours, and I felt like it's hard to find 2 hours of anything to shoot that you could just sit and watch. Like it was just kind of like and because Twit's a pretty good conversation most of the time, it really felt like it was a great place to test that. And so it kind of pushed us along, and it was the first time we were going to see like having hundreds. I've been testing this camera with Marcelo for quite some time, but it's always been like 4 or 5 people watching. Like it's like, hey, look at this, and then people go, oh, I really like this, and I hate it when you do this, and don't do that again, and oh, this is great, and like it's great when the guy brings the saxophone up. I was at a concert last week. Kevin and I went to see Dengue. Was that last week last week ago? That's why I wasn't here. We shot. I went to see Dengue Fever, and we tried to stream from there, but it was there wasn't enough bandwidth, so we just recorded it. But you get a sense every time you record with the camera, oh, this is working dimensionally, and also it's just the best way to do it is to start doing things in different environments is how you learn everything. Like you can think about what it might do, but then you're like, okay, would this work? And one of the things I've been thinking about is, my wife works at a meditation center, and could someone sit in a VisionPro and sit in front of a teacher and have them, they're talking to people in the room or even by themselves in their own thing, and you feel like you could just put the VisionPro on and be part of the experience, and there's some interesting possibilities there related to being part of the experience, but augmenting that experience. Like for instance, in a meditation area, you could have it blank out at certain times so that you just kind of are in a space and then have it come back, that kind of thing. Right now, we're just seeing if the spatial will work, but that's the kind of thing. So I'm testing it in lots of different environments to see what works, what doesn't work. I will say with spatial, you just don't know until you do it. Like you just have to play with it and see it, and then experience it, and then make a decision. Like that's what we're testing today.
There's something about I got on and had a look, and I appreciate that you had a bunch of trinkets all over the table that were kind of had some extra depth to it, right?
Yep, that was
the bobbleheads and things. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
definitely on purpose. Like it wasn't, you know, I had requested that they brought some stuff to put on the table because I just knew that in that first 3 or 4 feet, you want to have a bunch of things that you can see the dimensionality that is in front of you.
Hmm. But what I did find, and I have found this with the spatial photos or the photos that have been converted to spatial. Now I know that that's different than what the live streaming camera is doing, but is there, and Marcelo, maybe you know about this too, is there any is the LiDAR being used at all for any sort of depth perception, and is that being interpreted into what the camera is doing? Do you know, Marcelo?
Well, yeah. Well, the good thing about this is the way that, you know, the stereo is being captured, right? Because having the two lenses side by side allow us to do this capture. And there's of course the LiDAR sensors. That's exactly what it allows you to get a sense of the depth of the scene.
Mm.
Otherwise, if you don't have the sensors, you could actually make it work in a way, but that's why the iPhone 15 Pro Max is actually the right phone, and in order to do that, because it incorporates the LiDAR sensors and also this stereo cameras that you can actually run with it.
And I don't, but I think
Otherwise-
that most of the image that you're getting, I think, is just the I could be wrong, but I think it's just the cameras themselves, right? It's just
It is. Yes,
the tricky
yes, for
part.
sure.
The tricky part is one camera doesn't match the other camera, so there's a bunch of math that's going on to get those two cameras. That's the Apple magic, is that one of the lenses is being zoomed up. I believe the wide lens is being scaled up to
The
create
wide
the
lens
dimensionality.
Yeah, and you try to match both, of course, and the idea is like that's how it works. But I said it's super simple, and it's not. But that's kind of like the idea behind it. So yeah, both lenses will match. The computational work is there, and yeah, part of the censoring of the images is actually making it look good in stereo, which is the spatial video that we have today. And it makes a beautiful image. To be honest with you, the feedback that we have so far is great. The quality, the sense of being there is what we achieved, and I think that's the most important part. The show yesterday was 3 hours, so it was a different, yeah, it was a long one.
And from an audience member's
everybody,
perspective, it doesn't feel that way. It felt
didn't feel like-
so. It was a
yeah,
joy to watch. It was an absolute, like, it didn't feel like 3 hours. I didn't feel bored because there wasn't a lot of cuts. I mean, it was something that I just felt like I got a front row seat to Twit, and that was, for me, was so cool because I'm just sitting in my living room.
And I think
that's
the key, is that I think that some of the dimensionality makes it so that it feels natural to. I think that's part of what makes it feel natural not to have multiple cuts, is because you feel more like you're there.
Right. Yeah, you're right, and that's the feedback that we have. Like, people were saying that they really felt like they were closer than the audience that is watching on YouTube, let's say, or whatever else they can watch the show, which to me is mind-blowing. It was really an experience. And like Alex said, it was never done before. This was the first time ever that we do this with a phone. And that's why I said that we make history yesterday. It was pretty great, a great feeling.
It's very, very cool, and congratulations, Marcelo. It's amazing that it's the fruition of obviously a lot of work for you. Was there from the tech specs point of view, it's a 1080p stream that is I guess I hesitate to use the term interlaced, but it's kind of like that, right?
It's a little like that. It's so this is the MV-HEVC. And so what it does is that you have a hero eye, which is typically the left eye. I don't think it has to be, but it typically is the left eye. And then you have the second eye, which is it only calculates the delta of the second eye to the first eye. And the advantage of that is that as it arrives, if you open it in Safari on your laptop, it'll just show up as you just see one eye. You just see, it just doesn't, it's the same video feed. And if you don't have the ability to see it in stereo, you just see it in mono. But if you can see it in stereo, the other feed is there. Now, they've just added to compress for the last update. you can take that MVHEVC and convert it to side by side, so it'll calculate that for you, or you can go side by side back to MVHEVC, which I haven't done yet, but it's in the release docs. It's something that's on my list to do soon, to make that all possible. But you should be able to now go back and forth between those. That wasn't available at first. So, but it is it's not purely a side by side stream, because that would take up a lot more bandwidth.
That's right.
And what is the bandwidth difference then? If it's only the delta, and I guess that's me trying to understand that the delta difference is from a pixel point of view. It's not just that some pixels are offset, right? Because then there has to be some depth information as well, right?
Well, it doesn't have to have depth information. It just has to reproduce the other frame. So it has to just look at what the difference is between the two frames. And as you get further away, the thing you have to remember is that the only thing that is really different in those two lenses is most of what's happening close up. So the background for both of them is very close, if not the same. And so that's why it becomes much more efficient to use it. It becomes less efficient. Now, I think last night, I believe we were running at 6. Is that right, Marcelo?
I think we were doing 6 megabits per second, yeah.
And 1080p. And the app will let you go up to 20. But 6 is very close to the same as if you were doing 1080p with H.264, because this is H.265, which is more efficient, but you have the second eye. So it's still a pretty reasonable amount of bandwidth.
So the efficiency that you gain in the 265 was taken up, by doing the second.
And it had to do. I think that I made a real quick change at the very end, because I had intended to just go full 20, and I think that it was a bunch of changes at the very end. What I did is I was having trouble getting my MixPre 3 to talk to at the last minute. I had used it before, but I hadn't used it recently. And so when I went to do it this morning, in the morning before the show, I suddenly couldn't get it to work. And I couldn't get it to start streaming. And it has something to do with just the interaction between iOS 18, I think, and the hardware. And so I just couldn't get it to work. And so I went through a bunch of things. And one of the things I did is reinstall the app just to see if it was going to make any difference, which it didn't. But it did, I think, reset it to 6, because I went in earlier and set it to 20. Like, I just turned the dial up. So I didn't get back into there, and it looked fine. Like, because it's well lit, there isn't a lot moving. Like, it
looked great.
6 was totally fine. I don't think you would have seen any difference in 20, but I just like to turn the dial up.
Marcelo, with 700 or so people watching, were you happy that it wasn't at 20 megabits?
Yeah, well, this is what I like about Alex. He will always push the limit of quality, and this guy like talking the language that I talk always and all the time. So ideally, we wanted to do a test. Like the day that he also did another stream from a park, he was doing 20 megabits per second, and it was incredible. Like it looks, when you're outdoors, it looks like
and it was outdoor. There was a lot moving. I was moving the camera, so that at 20 really was necessary in that environment. In a way that 6 might not have been enough.
Exactly. So if there's movement there, then you need more bandwidth. But I think there's some sweet spots here and there, and that's the ability that we are adding to the app. So you are letting people choose, the bandwidth in the app. That's the idea for the camera app. It's going to be default at a 6 or 8, and we're defining those tiers and elements. But ideally, that's kind of like in a nutshell what it is. But I think that, like you said, H.265 helps a lot, and HDR, of course, and the fact that we can do this by pressing just one button in an iPhone, it's pretty mind-blowing.
I mean, that's the thing, is that I've been doing some kind of spatial streaming I've been doing spatial capture of stills for 30 years. I've been doing of stills and video, like 360 video, stereo stills for a very long time. And I've done a lot of streaming, and it's always been a bit of an art project. It's always like there's something weird about everything. And so what's magical about the Voodoo app is just the ability to pick up your phone and hit start stream, and we've worked pretty hard. Marcelo and I have a lot of conversations. Marcelo is always like, every time he adds a new button, I'm like, do we need a new button? Because I like having no buttons, like no buttons. And so really it's set up to just, you hit a button and say, share this link. And then you hit start stream, and boom, people are watching it. And the fact that I was able to, a couple days ago, There's just a handful of people that I was able to just say, hey guys, I'm about to start streaming from a park. Just watch this space, and then throw a link in and go a couple minutes later. It's pretty cool. Like, and there's been no other time when I wanted to stream stereo video that it has been that easy. It's always been like, oh, we have rigs and things and figuring all this stuff out. And all I did was sit there. I opened up Speed Test. I tested what I was getting on my cellular, and it said, oh, you're getting 40 up. I was like, I can do this. So.
And taking that friction away from the capture and making it easier to share with people casually means that now you can iterate a lot faster. Everyone can be playing with how big is the window and what's a sweet spot for, is the screen close to me, is it further away? If you have to have all the rigidity of having a really heavy lift to set it up in the first place, you don't get any of that. So that's, Marcelo, for me anyway, just to hear about what you're doing, that's the thing that excites me the most, is that our speed of iteration is going to get that much faster.
Yeah, 100%. And we are all about speed, to be honest. Like we are really live in these situations, and we are always working on things like this. But that's kind of like the beauty. And I also think about where do we are standing here. And we were trying, and I told this to Alex, and we really agreed that what we were looking for is the simplicity of FaceTime with the quality of Apple TV. We were trying to match that, in a way. Like, I'm not saying that FaceTime doesn't have quality. What I'm saying is, like, hey, you see quality in Apple TV when you watch shows and you watch the 4K streams of movies and shows, and you're like, oh, look at this. Like, this is incredible, the way that it looks and the quality that it has. All right, can we do that in a live stream scenario? And can we make it work in one tap? And can we do this, like, real quick and easy with a phone? And that's what we said with Alex like a couple of years ago, even, that we were talking about this, and that was
and I think that one of the things that's really interesting is, like, Todd Reynolds is experimenting right now with the iPhone 15 to do a stream from his from his studio. And I think that there's such a really interesting opportunity now that we're starting to figure this out, to do streams of artists playing music, because it's an individual artist playing a guitar, playing a synthesizer or violin, are all things that I think are going to look really good in 3D. So that, when they're nice and close to the camera and they've got a little bit of a detail in the background, it's going to look really great. And so, one of the things we're going to do is start inside of office hours. I'm going to put out the link later this week. We're going to say, hey, if you've got an iPhone 15 or eventually a 16, let us know that you have it. And then we're going to try to find opportunities around people who have the camera, have the phone, and see if they can't, go out and capture something. Like, hey, we've got an artist in Austin, or we've got an artist in Nashville. Can we go out and go to, and find them in the park, or go to their house, or have them come over, or whatever, and try to do, different streams. And remember, this is a preview. The 16 is probably going to give us more resolution. The Blackmagic camera is going to give us a lot more resolution. And these, I think that this experience can keep scaling up.
Yeah, that's right.
I was going to ask about that. I guess the broadening the input devices and then broadening the output devices as well. I guess, Marcelo, is that kind of on the roadmap for you?
Yeah, so right now we've, of course, focused on the iPhone 15, the 15 Pro Max, right? And the Pro. And then the playback can be done in any device. Actually, any Apple device can play the streams. Of course, it's not 3D. You will see it in Spatial only if you have the Vision Pro. For now, it's just like that. In the roadmap, we thought about it, like getting other devices to work, but we were really focusing on the Apple ecosystem to start, because there's this advantage that we have, that we can focus on one way of doing it, and knowing that it has to work, and it has to work the same way that you're just running a FaceTime call, like that's kind of like the premise. And I think, like, this is what Apple allows us to do, right? Like, this is where we think about how the devices interconnect, right? And how do you just, if you pop the stream on your phone, like, you can open the link and watch the stream on your phone yesterday, right? Or if you put it in Apple TV, it will work in Apple TV as well, and an iMac or an iPad. And that's a beautiful thing. And then the Vision Pro, you got the same thing, but it's an incredible experience. So we are polishing that and making that happen first, making sure that this is the way. And of course, over the course, the roadmap, of course, we will be adding more input devices. Like Alex said, we were thinking and talking about the Blackmagic cameras and things that we cannot even talk, but you get the idea. So there are new cameras coming, new lenses and things like that, that we will be able to do the same thing. And we will push stereo and spatial video with incredible quality, with like just crazy inputs. But the fact of the phone is kind of like what makes it so special.
Well, and the fact that you can just turn it on, and if you've got bandwidth, you can just turn it on and suddenly have a stream, and be able to really, I think that's a profound, like, I have an experience that I want to share with you right now. And we just really haven't had that up until now. And I think that, again, for a variety of corporate events, for concerts, for other things, I think, and I think I wasn't able to stream it from Lagunitas for dengue fever. But I think that in the future, that's going to be something I'm going to be able to do, which is just, like, hey, I'm at a show. And I was actually going to talk to Lagunitas about the potential of, they've got a couple more concerts of, like, can I put a camera up here? And all I need to do is have them give me Wi-Fi, because this is a stream. It's not WebRTC. And so if I've got good bandwidth, I should be able to pass it on pretty smoothly.
Yeah, that's right. There's no special connections that you need. Like, you don't need to connect an Ethernet cable in this case. Let's say, of course, you can, to make sure that things work flawlessly, but the Wi-Fi will work really well in most situations if you do have the bandwidth for it, which is great. That's kind of like also part of the magic that we are pushing through.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to questions. One of the things that I just want people to be aware of is that we are doing there's layers of what's going on here as we're testing things. So one of the key motivations of extra hours is an opportunity for us to play around with vector, right? And so we're mixing this in the cloud, and we're just creating content to play around with, being able to mix a show. So that's one layer. The next layer is that we're doing another office hours, because apparently a daily 2-hour show is not enough. We have to add another one on a Monday evening. No, but it is exploring just a slightly different style. So we're looking at answering questions, and obviously chatting for a bit longer about the things. So that's another layer. Another layer is that I decided, let's do a VisionPro, and let's have everyone join VisionPro. And seeing the great comments is, like the dead eyebrows is always unsettling. There's definitely an uncanny valley thing that happens here. And I certainly am not like, oh, this is the future of seeing, video conferences, but it's the present. And so it's interesting to see us just play around with this.
Well, and I have to say, I have been in meetings with people for hours on the VisionPro. Like, I have had like an hour or two talking to them. And what really gets crazy is when you're texting back and forth like USDZ files. So you're like, look at this 3D file, and look at this 3D file, and check this out, and that's all stuff that is, I just moved my window really close to me for some reason. I put my hand out, and suddenly it was like, it's huge. So now you all, Grant looks like he's on a 200-inch TV in front of me until I figure out why that happened.
Well, I think that's a good point, Alex. Jason and I connected, and we were sharing a USDC file, and so we were both sort of exploring it, and that was just game changing as far as a meeting goes. Discussing something, we were looking at a floor plan of a multi-room building, and we could really talk about that in great detail. I think the human to human connection, if that's all you're doing, obviously is not going to be as good when we're doing it like this. But that kind of leads us to a question. I think we lost Jason. Did we lose Jason?
He's in the waiting room.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
I think one of our co-hosts can do it. It's hard for me to see the waiting room now. You got him in? Okay, good.
Okay. We'll get
there we go. Jason's
get
back.
Jason settled. Okay. All right. You're back in, Jason?
I'm good to go.
Okay. There's a little teething things that we just work out. Like apparently you pull the VisionPro headset off and it drops you out of Zoom instantly, which is
I made the
interesting.
mistake of readjusting it, and all of a sudden, boop, there I went.
You're out. There you go.
Bye-bye.
To the point that we're just talking about, Jason, there's a question there from John. Want to take that?
Sure. John Snyder in Reno, Nevada writes in, you've been interacting for about 15 minutes. Do you feel more or less present than in a Zoom meeting with a quality camera and mics?
Alex?
Yeah, I don't think that it's the same. It's that's there, but I do think that it's way less weird than having a. I think it would be weirder to be talking to each other in a VisionPro. Like the advantage of the VisionPro is that I can talk to you, and then I can also look at other things. So I can send you something to look at, and you can be there showing me something. I can open up a model and look it around, or I could be looking around at an environment and look back to you. So there are other advantages that are there. I don't think that it necessarily is better than the video version, but there's much more I can do than I can do in the video version. So the video version, I mean, a lot of us have we have telestrators and multiple and switchers and things like that. But I think that one of the really interesting things is the ability to, we're not doing it here, but the ability to share with each other models and locations and other things and be in the environment while we're talking to each other. And that's why I would probably use it. I don't think I would use it like, oh, I'm going to use this instead of my laptop, although I might be tempted to do that if I wasn't at home in my studio. More tempted like to have a meeting.
Yeah, well, and to that point, Marcelo doesn't have his laptop with him. It was literally, he's got the headset, away he goes. Which is
That's right. Yeah. I forgot my laptop in my friend's house. So Sandra, you got it. I need to pick it up from you. But yeah, and I'm fine. And like Alex said, right, like we have a lot of windows. Like I have the Mukana here on the right. I have Telegram at the top. I have Discord here on my left. And there's this other questions from Mukana on my left. It's crazy. Like it's super useful. Like if you know how to manage these windows, this is what makes it more seamless for people that usually can do other things while they are like in a Zoom call in this case, right?
Yeah, and to think that this would be the answer for podcasting is not the point. Like that's not what it is. And I think for some people that are just freaked out by the uncanny valley, I think you just cover up the window and you listen to it as if it's an audio only podcast, right? So, CJ, what's your experience?
Well, the other thing is, in this meeting in particular, everyone in the meeting that we can see is also a persona. So it would be, I think, considerably more jarring if all of a sudden, Grant's on video, Alex is a persona, Craig's on video. Then I feel like you were constantly getting, jostled around. This isn't that different from seeing and interacting with like a video game character. Like after a while, you just get used to, hey, that's how they look. It's no big deal. As far as being present in the meeting, I find the VisionPro in general, even if I'm using it as Mac Virtual Display, is an incredible focus device, because the world, especially if you wear, AirPods, the world is blocked out and you are literally tunnel vision on what you're looking at. And when I saw the spooky eyes in persona and was buying into some of the negative press online, I was not crazy about the personas. Now here we are, and I am not bothered by it at all. In fact, I think it's pretty cool. I'm having to get used to things like if I move too close, I'll fade away.
Right. Yeah.
And and if I look at the other screen, like it's actually moving my avatar. So like it's actually more exaggerated when I look at another screen in this than when I glance down at a screen at my normal setup.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm even more drawn to try and like say, okay, where is the center of camera?
Right.
Yeah, I'm conscious of that too. That as a host, I'm asking questions, and then I'll ask a question, and then I'm like this, right? It's like, what just happened? He's
Roland in the chat was like,
him?
Grant and CJ look off axis. What's going on? It's like, we're looking at a screen.
Well, it's like, and there's there's a squirrel over here, and so I'm just going to start following that, you know. But I do think that there is the interactivity idea of doing something with the use of this whole space is where it comes into its own. For just a straight person-on-person discussion, it possibly is not the best way. But what do you think, Craig?
Yeah, you know, after watching Twit yesterday, I realized that it is definitely more of a connection than just purely. And it's funny when you talk with your hands, you can see them.
Yeah.
When you see the video in 3D of somebody, it was surprisingly more immersive than I was expecting. So watching Twit, I felt like CJ said, felt like I was there. One of the things that I would love to see, you know, they have the personas. What would be really cool, and I've seen this in some other 3D tools where the gallery, everything was thumbnails, but they were 3D thumbnails. I think that would be just that much more immersive. And because they're, you know, it's a persona, they should be able to do that sort of thing without massive effort.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. All right, next question.
Steve Routley in Adelaide writes in, which VR headset brand or type of control is the easiest for first-time user to get the hang of?
He did say easiest, not cheapest, Alex.
Yeah, and I would say that's the problem is that the easiest one really is the Apple Vision Pro is the easiest one to throw on. It really the setup is amazingly easy to follow along. You throw it on, it asks you to start, you know, show me your hands, and then it's tracking your eyes, and very quickly you're just in it, you know. And so I think that it is the easiest one. It's definitely not the cheapest.
Yeah. CJ?
So I read this as what is the easiest band to start with. So I was going to say, well, you could start with the single loop, but then, you know, you go to the dual one. I've never used any other VR anything except like an amusement park where you're playing a game. So I don't have a great frame of reference except to say that I put this on and took to it like a fish to water, but also when people come and visit the house, they're like, hey, can I try out the Vision? And you'd say, okay, you're going to do the dinosaurs, you're going to watch this video, and then you're going to try this. And it was not a big to-do to have 3 or 4 people within the span of half an hour go and play around and try it. And so that was being able to just hand it off again and again and again is a testament to Alex's point about that this setup is really, really slick.
We obviously use guest mode, but then do you also screen share so you can see what's going on for them?
So what we were doing is we were in the living room, and then we were mirroring the Vision Pro to the Apple TV that was hooked up to the TV in the living room. So everybody else in the room could see what the other person was seeing. And even though you just watched 2 or 3 other people go through the dinosaurs app, when that T-Rex reaches his nose out and is like, hey, you saw everybody get like apprehensive and say, wait a minute, what is this? And so that was really cool because like even though you know what's coming, you still are moved by it.
Yeah, that was instant heart rate increase for me was the dinosaur thing. Like, it was like, all right, this is a real thing. Craig, have you experienced other headsets?
Yeah, I've got a whole pile of them here or in a drawer. I can't hold them up, but you know, the Quest 2 was interesting because they had some pass through. I think Quest 3 really did a great job doing that, and I agree that the Vision Pro is definitely simpler from, hey, there's no extra little things to hold up and whatnot, but pretty much every adult and person out there is used to either a mouse or a touchpad or some other device to move a cursor around the screen. And I find that the learning curve of how do I grab and pinch my fingers just on the right spot, and all of a sudden they need to use their eyeballs as moving the cursor. It's close. I don't think it's spot on just yet.
I think
once
one of the things
it,
is that you
know,
have to keep people from reaching out because they actually get away from the cameras. They can't see the pinch. And so you have to go like, you can just hold your hand in and do it, and it's going to be way faster and easier. But it's hard to when the little dots come up to red, you see people reaching out trying to grab onto them, and you're like, you don't just keep your hand down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that bites me all the time is during using a normal computer interface, I've noticed that I'm looking at something and then I'll start to look away as I know that I'm about to click on it. But with the Vision Pro, I need to keep my eyes on it and then click. And that's a lot different than I act on a normal computer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting used to that idea. But like when you're doing passwords or something, or repeat letters or numbers, I'm surprised how much I move my eyes to then see that it's happening, and then I I lose the space on the keyboard. So it ends up being intuitive, but it just takes a bit of reprogramming. But Marcelo, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. Let me put it this way. So I have 3 boys, 3 little boys, and the little one is called Samuel. So little Sammy, he's 10 years old, and he can use the Vision Pro like a master. The first time that I actually put it on to him and say, hey, do you want to play with this? So I think that we are taking for granted like all the ways that you can control the Vision Pro. You know, the way that you manage it with your eyes, hands, and voice, and it has to get used to that in a way that is super seamless. Like it's that easy. And then this is exactly what I'm saying. Like my son is being able to do it, and I told him, hey, can you go and just do the screen mirror so you can put it on Apple TV? And he just goes and does it, right? Which is crazy. So for him,
in planes, the big problem is getting the food. So if you have it on and someone hands you, as you grab onto something, as you grab onto the chips or something like that, suddenly everything goes everywhere. So you're always like, I gotta get out of whatever I'm doing to do it, because it's going to throw everything off.
Yeah.
The plane,
and so one of the
was
things that we can say, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the plane was what made me realize the importance of the lenticular glass on the outside, because I'm a rebel. I wear it gate to gate. I do it before, as we're taxiing on both ends is when I set it up and take it down, right? And then I remember the first time there was a flight attendant who looked at me and said, "Hey, do you see me?" And I was like, "You bet I see you." And then as soon as I looked at her, I could tell the eyes went on, and she was like, "Oh, oh, you can see."
You made her jump.
So one of the things that we can
Thought she was
suggest
being
is that
funny.
person that asked the question, Steve, you should go to Apple and schedule a demo and see it for yourself. That's exactly what I suggest to everybody.
And I will say that the flight experience is amazing. You know, like you get on a plane and you just like turn everything off and you're not watching movies. And it is, I don't know if that alone is worth $4,500, but it's pretty close.
Almost,
you know,
almost.
Yeah.
Almost right.
We have to
It's
visit
incredible.
get on a long haul flight.
Yeah.
I know. It's going to happen. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I need a big battery bank to make it work for a long time. But I did do it at the sat in my car at the beach the other day, and it really was amazing to have the virtual display. Because the other thing is, this game changer for me is when you're in bright sunlight and you can't see your laptop screen very well, you put on Vision Pro, do virtual display.
I hadn't thought of that.
Right. And now you can see really clearly. And I could still see the beach. I could see the ocean, through the camera. And I thought, is that not going to feel real? It totally did. Of course, I'm still hearing the ocean, and I'm smelling it, and like all of that experience. But then sitting in the car and having multiple displays and had a Zoom meeting going and all of that, it really was game changing. And that's when it felt like, okay, this is a productivity tool, as well as all these other layers that's going on. But Marcelo, you're right. And Adelaide is one of the few stores, I think it's only 3 stores in Australia, that did the full setup. With those the lounges, they did the lounges, and they have the little fancy machine there that looks like a coffee maker. but it's just it's for reading the glasses, right? Like it
Right. Yeah.
detects the glasses, yeah,
For the prescription that you need. Yeah.
for the lenses, yeah. So that's all pretty cool. Now, speaking of the dinosaurs, the thing is too, when we all touch our mouth, it looks like we're breathing. Look at that. It looks like we're breathing smoke.
Breathing magic dust.
We're
Yeah.
dragons. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you cover up your face. All right, next question.
Karen Addis in Melbourne writes that a lot of panelists have mentioned how the iPhone was built, or the iPhone 15 was a bit of a game changer. Is it all of them or just the Pro? What makes them so great?
It's Australia represent today in the questions. Thank you, Jason. What do you say?
The big difference for me, so I didn't buy the Pro and the normal one. I did buy the Pro, and the real difference for me has been how quickly I can get things into and out of the iPhone with Thunderbolt. I don't know if the non-Pro has that. I think it might just be standard USB-C. But the difference is really, it's like 100x. You can take a gigantic ProRes file and dump it out, or of course live record it. But that's the real difference for me between the 15, well, at least the 14 Pro and the 15 Pro for me.
CJ?
Getting 48 megapixels on stills has been huge for me, and having the raw photo mode to be able to go out and shoot a high quality photo no matter where I am, no matter what challenging lighting condition. I was at right after the 15 came out. I took my Pro Max up to I think the Duquesne Overlook or whatever it is in Pittsburgh, and I took this 12-shot panorama of the skyline lit up at night with reflections on the water and everything. And when I got it into Photoshop or Lightroom and I did the merge, and I just sat there and I looked at it and I thought to myself, wow, because I love taking panoramas. This phone, everything stitched beautifully. There was great sharpness. I felt like, oh my goodness, I can print this out, and I don't have to worry about my lightning cords anymore. I have to worry about it for my AirPods, and that's it. Just put them away.
Alex?
Yeah, I think that what CJ just said, the USB-C is a huge game changer because now it's tying into all the entire ecosystem. You could kind of do that before, but now you're just taking drives and plugging them in, or interfaces and plugging them in. So it's USB-C changes the way the phone operates because it now can just be part of a production machine. And then the improvements to the video. I mean, and we saw some of those in 14, but in 15 the additional lens options, the 3D camera. I mean, you just have kind of a very feature-rich camera, and the footage that comes out of it is really good. And I think that's the thing that is really interesting, is that you're really getting good footage. Again, I'm not going to say that it's better than the Sony stuff that I shoot or the Blackmagic stuff that I shoot, big expensive cameras, but they're not the ones that I carry around in my pocket. And I find myself going back to the phone like, well, this is going to have GPS, it's going to have all the data, it's going to have all the, like, if I really have to be committed to taking a photo. And I have to admit also my skill set of taking stills from an SLR has gone down pretty dramatically because I just don't do it very often anymore. I know how to get a great photo with my phone really fast. And so so that's part of it, I think. But I think that the USB-C interconnect and the ability to add all of those other bits and pieces to it has really made a huge difference.
Marcelo?
Yeah, I agree with everybody here. Of course, what Alex says, it's like that. To me, it's also the battery life. It's pretty impressive what they've done in terms of efficiency there. Of course, if you're like in betas and jumping in and out for that, maybe that will suffer a little bit more. But the 15 Pro, actually the Pro Max, the battery life is just incredible. And the cameras, right? Like, we are always expecting the best cameras. Like, when the iPhone 16 is going to be announced, we will always, I mean, at least me and maybe Alex too, but we are waiting for the camera specs, right? What are they bringing to the cameras? And I think that that's really, really powerful. So the cameras and the battery life are things that makes a huge difference, especially for me. I've been using the iPhone since, of course, iPhone 1, right? Like the first iPhone that had a camera that it was 640 by 480. Like that's what was the resolution in that first iPhone, right? And now we are like, where are we? This is crazy, powerful. Like they really got in. And well, no wonder why Apple is using iPhone 15
And it's
Pros and Pro Max to their events, right?
and it's not just the resolution; it's the dark. The night shooting is incredible. Like
Low light,
when you
yeah.
the low light, all the low light stuff, and some of the stuff I've taken outside at night. If you're able to hold it still or put it on a tripod, it'll do a 10-second
It's
exposure.
astounding.
It's
I mean,
incredible.
it's just yeah, and it's just like, and what's happening is this computational photography is just starting to go way past just the sensor photography, and you see little artifacts of it here and there, but overall, I think that it's really an amazing, amazing experience. And I use a lot of different cameras. It's not the only camera I use, but it is a really, really powerful solution.
I was at a concert that had a full stage rig of lights going back and forth, lasers on the stage. Nothing crazy. I mean, it was just like accent lasers, but it's still a laser. Haze going around, a lot of like the light and dark delta, tremendous. And I'm just took my phone out of my pocket, went into RAW mode, and said, "Okay, you go get it." And it was just, I got it back, and I was just blown away.
It's so good. I've got a friend and work colleague that that lives in Thailand, and he has a iPhone 15 Pro Max, and I said, "Hey, a Vision Pro, can you shoot some spatial video?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know I could." Right? It was like one of those features that was like, yeah, I didn't realize. And so he has shot me some really cool stuff, and I'll share it sometime as well, because I was trying to get some iconic or sort of clearly Thailand or sort of not Western country type idea. And so walking through some of the food markets and things like that in spatial video just looks amazing. And so I'm looking forward to the 16 to see. I guess one of the hopes would be 4K spatial video. Is that one of the hopes?
Oh, that would be
hoping.
incredible.
We're hoping. No one said anything, obviously, but I think that it feels like that's the next logical step, would be higher frame rate and higher resolution would be and that would be enough for me to buy the next camera. I mean, because I'm shooting a fair amount of spatial. One of the things we noticed when we did the stream on Friday was that moving the camera when it's 16:9 and it's a window and it's not taking over your whole experience, you can actually move the camera. And so I went ahead and got you can't see it. I don't think this will show up, but I'm holding something up in front of you and you can't see it. But I got the, I did get the new Osmo mobile. Like, here it is. You can see my hands holding something. See, look at this.
Oh yeah, I've got one too right here.
There it is.
You're going to make
right
the
there.
shape of it.
Yeah, I've got one.
Just
Look at
reveal.
that. But it's
Just
the
trace
Osmo
it with your
Mobile
hands.
6. Yeah, Mobile 6 because I think that floating will work, with that process. And so,
And that is
and
the
there's just
extension on it too. Get you up nice and high.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that I can do some really interesting stuff. I've been kind of obsessed with farmers markets recently. So I'm going to try to possibly stream some stuff I'm trying to find it. Now I'm trying to find the right farmers market that has good connectivity from my phone so I can find the right place to stream from. So that's the new problem.
Yeah.
Just sitting under a 5G tower would be the ideal.
Well, that's what happened with what happened with the concert on Friday was that I just opened. What I've gotten the habit of now is anytime I look at something interesting, I pull out my phone and just go to speed test and hit test. And I just want to know, like, okay, what kind of bandwidth am I looking at? And if I see it's enough, I start thinking about, well, we should do some streaming.
Depending on your your data allowance, it's something to keep in mind that particularly when you are in 5G and it's doing high speed, the data usage can be a gig and a half for those speed tests. It's like,
Yes.
and so sometimes you don't want to be on like a prepaid data allowance and do a speed test and blow through a couple of gig in a few seconds.
Yeah.
Is what happens. All right, next question.
Steve Routley in Adelaide writes in, and can VR headsets be used to control FPV drones? Are Fat Shark and DJI goggles going to become obsolete?
Alex.
I don't think so. I think that the problem is getting the interaction, getting the low latency down for them is a pretty big deal, because if you don't get it right, you will wreck your FPV. So I don't think that I don't think that I think you really want to use what the manufacturer develops for it. It's such a sensitive thing, and the latency has to be pretty much zero, or you're gonna have a problem. And so I know that you could do it, but I wouldn't with some. I mean, if you look at, like, I saw some stuff in Ukraine, they're, building their own. And so they're doing all kinds of stuff with headsets and making it all work, because they're building a lot of that stuff from scratch. But if I was going to use a DJI, I would use their headset as well.
Jason?
Yeah, theoretically, you could mirror an iPad that was on a set of remote controls from a DJI drone, and you're going to immediately and completely wreck it. So no, I mean, can it? Yeah, but it will be your last flight.
I think that I have seen a video of someone doing it, and it goes to the point that I was saying before about being in bright sunlight and not being able to see very well. And they were able to install the iPad app on the Vision Pro, and then just open it and ran the drone software directly on the Vision Pro, and were able to see it really well because they were, in the headset. And so, I mean, I think the rules are that you're supposed to have someone observing you, observing the drone. When at least that's what it is in Australia.
In this country, that's the law. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you have a pilot, but you would also have someone on safety watch. And so if you have that as well, and so the pilot's just in the Vision Pro, it could be a great experience. Now that, albeit that is different to FPV. I'm just talking about standard drone usage. Could be pretty amazing.
I think that the issue is specifically with FPV is the part that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'd want to do that, because you are looking out the front of that drone, and you're making very quick decisions about what that needs to do, and any kind of latency there can get pretty ugly. But as Jason said, you can do almost anything in life once.
You said it better than I did.
Just like doing an all Vision Pro panel with
exactly
the personas, you can do it once.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can say, "Hey, I wonder what would happen if I jumped out of this plane without a parachute." You can just do it once, just can't. It's just hard to do it twice.
Nice. Next question.
Craig Kadoki in Toronto writes in, how did you decide the background? Does it have to be the same for everyone? And what are the options?
Yeah, CJ.
So it does not. We made a conscious decision to try and make it seem like we were all in the same room today. And as Grant is showing now, if you move the zoom window, you're effectively moving the camera around. So you have to almost treat the zoom window as if it were, the window through which the world is looking at you. I will, however, use this opportunity to say that I tried to recreate my normal setup so that you could be faked out as if this was my normal Friday set, but not just kidding. I'm spooky today, but in the end, I think it looked better to all be in the same space.
There you go.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, Marcelo.
No, that's all right. I was saying that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was moving the zoom window around, which I'm still envious of Craig's position at the end of the table. It feels like he's at the head of the table there, and I would have to completely change my whole orientation around to be able to make that work. So,
and to be opposite Craig at the other end, you've got this black window of I am in nothing.
Oh yeah,
and that was
I think it's a video screen.
Oh
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think you can actually do Keynote. You can do Keynote in this environment.
Exactly.
This reminds me identically of the briefing room that was in the old North Michigan Avenue store in Chicago. The old Apple store on the 4th floor, they had one that looked just like this, and they claimed at the time that it was modeled after the corporate boardrooms at Infinite Loop. But that's absolutely the vibes I get in this room.
The thing, as I was saying at the start, we're talking about all the things that you would not normally do in a Zoom meeting, and one of those would be to have the window behind you and have the light, so we can continue doing all the wrong things, being connected to Wi-Fi, using the built-in microphones, all of these things. We're breaking all of our own rules, but it's working. So there you go. Next question.
Yeah, you're about to see me break my eye line here. Dave Kaufman in Vancouver, BC writes in, how do you connect the VisionPro to your Zoom computer so it looks like a real virtual camera or mic?
Alex?
I don't know if that's the I don't know if that's not what we're doing. Like we're joining this from the VisionPro. So we're not sharing this to a computer. Some of us are sharing the computer to our headset, but what we're doing is just, this is the VisionPro. Like the VisionPro has joined Zoom. So we're not, if that's the question.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Marcelo doesn't even have a computer. So
right.
That's right.
He's able to do it. CJ?
And if this were the kind of show where we had show titles, the show title would be The VisionPro has joined Zoom.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, this sorry, no, I'm good.
There's a question, I guess, about the good cameras on the front of the VisionPro, and if that would become more available in the same way that Zoom, that the Mac OS can take advantage of the camera in your phone. Will it become available that it can use the cameras on the front of the VisionPro, which would be an interesting thing as far as point of view, sharing into Zoom or sharing into the computer.
So my thought for that is that I don't actually think that the VisionPro cameras are very good. I just think that there are a lot of them. It is notoriously and annoyingly soft for me. I'm not bragging. I have very good vision, and I can always see the softness, which is why I turn on the backgrounds always, because it just annoys me to see everything a little bit soft. The program windows themselves are insanely sharp, but the 360, the 180 cameras that try to show you so you don't trip over something are actually, to me, not very good.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised to see when you do the persona capture, you can see the raw capture images. If you go at the bottom, you can see what it captured, the images that it captures, and they're
I've never done that.
Yeah, it's very wide, and the view that it's taken to generate those images has the face very, very small in the middle of the frame, which makes me think it's a very low res view that it's getting. I guess it's just taking it's photogrammetry, right, Alex? Like it's
Well, I think it's also
the quality.
I think it's probably not also creating a new. I don't know this for a fact, but I don't think that it's creating a true photogrammetry head. It has a head, like base unit. This is how other ones work anyway, and then it morphs it to according to the photos. It morphs a known head to those photos so that your dimensionality basically matches up. It's important because if you're doing all the animation, you don't want to map that animation to that geometry again. So all the facial bone structures and everything else that make our face move has to be applied to a known mesh. And so I think that what Apple's doing, most likely, if they're doing it like everybody else has in the past, which they might not be, is that they're taking that mesh and simply morphing it, moving the surfaces around as you move around. And then they're using the pictures you took as textures on top of that mesh. And that mesh is probably not very high resolution. My guess is these meshes are less than 2,000 polygons.
You're saying it basically has a skin thumb that it applies a chin and a nose and a forehead.
Well, it's probably something that looks like a face. There's probably a base face that's there. and it just simply it makes decisions about where your nose is. It's kind of like if you think about MetaHuman and you're grabbing onto people's, you have a base face, and then you're moving different key points in and out based on that. And you get away with it because of the texture maps look like you.
And then it's almost like, are they using accelerometer data? Because for me, it's all the little expressions. Like it's not perfect, but it's remarkably good at how it gets a lot of little tiny micro expressions in your face. And when you grimace or when you smile, but it knows because it's kind of resting on my cheekbones. It knows when my cheekbones are going up and when I smile and when I laugh, and all of that little stuff is pretty. It's pretty incredible that it's doing that in real time.
It's not perfect, but I think it's the best set of avatars I've seen so far. So.
Well, and the tongue as well. It has. It didn't take an image of our tongues. So in theory, our tongue are all the same.
And it's pretty amazing when they do the scan.
We need to reproduce this. The weirdest commercial ever would be, "What's that?" There's an Apple ad for you where everyone just goes.
All right, we I think we've hit a new low in the episode, but it is so low that I think we need this to be the thumbnail for this episode. Is us all with our tongues out. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, well done, everyone. We've really taken it to a new low. All right, next question.
Kyle Hammond in Chicago, Illinois writes in, you've only shot a few times in Spatial, but any tips you know right out of the gate?
Marcelo?
Well, I think the distance that you're taking things when you're shooting Spatial, I won't say movement because you can do, stabilization now. At least iOS 18, for those who have the betas, there's stabilization in the spatial recording, right? So if you're recording, then you can have a very smooth shot. But I would say that the distance when you're shooting stuff, you need to know, what is kind of like your foreground, your middle, and your background. And that will sort of create that feeling of immersion that it looks great. And, the stream yesterday show us that, like, when you respect that, there's a lot of very visually appealing images that you can see that, hey, look at this, right? And it looks really, really amazing. So that's first. And then usually what Apple has a help video, I think, on their website where they show these tips also. So you can go in the Apple website and check the iPhone spatial video where when they shoot, they tell you what to do. But yeah, moving the camera slow. Usually you don't move the camera a lot because the action happening around is what actually makes it look great. But you can, of course, you can walk and try to pan and do things, but you have to be gentle when that happens. Usually some people will get like, oh, this is moving too fast, or some others no, but that's, a couple of tips there.
Marcelo, you were talking about lighting being a huge key to the twit stream too, right? There's so much depth in that lighting.
For sure. And that's a thing because we back to the stereo. So the lighting being good helps a lot in this shot because it does allow you to get a great image quality for the stream. When you are getting into a darker place, then the two lenses are not the same handling low light. So you need to start looking like a lot of computational power to match those low light performances in two lenses at the same time in real time, which is crazy. But you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like one of the things that we are dealing with right now, which is great. But the lighting, good lighting condition, it also helps it actually. So it's also one of the tips. Yeah, of course. And being outside during the day, like it's incredible.
Yeah.
Right? Like it looks amazing. I never tried a night stream, to be honest. I tried when I went to New York to the Grand Central Station the other day. I was in New York and I was capturing some spatial video there. I went in Times Square. I did the Grand Central Station. I did the Apple Store in Fifth Avenue, the Cube. Everything was broad daylight and it was great. But the Grand Central, though, which is also the Apple Store there, but when I was shooting in Apple in the Grand Central, you can see there is low light where the clock is. I don't know if you've been there, but the clock in the middle and everything, and even it's decent light, but it's not that bright. So you can maybe see some artifacts here and there when there's low light for now, which I assume on the 16 that will be fixed. You know what I mean? That's
better.
my wish. Yeah.
Yeah. Alex?
Yeah, the you know, your working space where you really want to have something happening is 4 to 8 feet. So really think about, you know, what you have there, and you want some distinction between whatever that is and behind it, because that's going to have it jump out at you. You know, when you have that you have something in 4 to 8 feet, and then you want some distance to the next thing, and that's going to give you that dimensionality. Also, a lot of times, if you shoot at an angle, you think you want to shoot flat on, but when you shoot at an angle, you create, you know, there's lots of things happening in depth going across the front. So you notice that I could have put the camera flat on so that you would see everybody in twit. But when we did earlier tests, what we did is we found that the angle was more important, that we could could work at an angle and you'd see more happening in depth, which made it feel more 3D. So that was another bit of the puzzle there, was to tie that together. And so and then of course good lighting reduces the amount of compression, so that's always a good thing. I think that the slow movement, as Marcelo said, is important. And then the other thing is that, you know, especially when you're shooting the video in spatial, if anyone uses the immersive look, you're going to lose about 10 to 15% all the way around as it blurs out that area to make it immersive. So you actually kind of consider it almost like title safe, or, you know, when I'm shooting it, I'm kind of considering the outer edges as kind of a dead zone, and I don't want to put stuff in there. Things that are only in one side, or things that are really close, especially if they come up, like I was shooting this concert and kids were running by. And I think that was a little disconcerting to the folks that were watching, because suddenly there's something really close in frame. So you want to be kind of careful of that. Things entering frame really close to the camera will tend to be a little, the stereo doesn't always work because the cameras don't see it the same way. And sometimes I think we had a couple places where one camera tries to focus and the other one doesn't, and that's not a comfortable experience for the person watching. So I think those are some of the things that you want to kind of think about as you start to build it. But as you start to do those, and again, the thing is, do lots of it and then watch it. I'm taking lots and lots of stereo video, and then when I get home later, I just go and open it up and see what it looks like.
Nice. Jason?
Get a gimbal, and do so because your horizon lines matter a whole bunch. If you've gone into your iPhone and you've tried to capture spatial video, the reason that there's a new change in the UI that gets really, really turned when you start tilting is that, you know, there's a reason you almost never get this in cinema, and it's because that is the third rail. You never ever mess with the horizon line because it's so disconcerting. The other thought is, yeah, I mean, 4 to 8 feet is about right. And the LiDAR in this case is giving you a sense of scale. Keep in mind, the LiDAR's resolution is relatively low compared to the incredible capture that both of the cameras are doing. But it's not as quick to adapt, and it's not as quick to figure out exactly what the depth map is. So any quick movement is going to really mess with the scale, and it's important to remember that.
Craig?
Yeah, you know, one thing I started to do is think about you're holding your phone out in front of you. What you're actually doing is you're holding the viewer's head. And so if you were holding someone's
That's
head,
a good way to
you
put it.
wouldn't spin it
Look
around.
at your head.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
move it up and down. You know, so you are holding their head and what they see.
Yeah, that's good.
That is a good way of thinking of it. I've done some live streaming of surgery, and you know, we've tried having GoPros on their head or on their chest and things like that, and it's just too much movement. Even when you watch VisionPro captures, screen recording captures, it always astounds me how much we're moving our head. That it doesn't feel like that when we're doing it. because I think one of the key game-changing quality of the VisionPro is how stable the windows are that you're looking at. Like they don't move even a little bit. And that makes it feel real. But that really makes the windows, it's like that window is there because I can move around and it doesn't waver at all.
And that's so, actually one of the problems in planes is that if you turn all the lights off, the cameras can't see the environment and it will slide. It will slide off like the whole horizon because it just can't find it. Is
that what travel mode does?
That's what travel mode does. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It just ignores those things. Although I got a light that I forgot to take on my last flight, but I'm going to take it on this next one, which is infrared. So it's like a little infrared light. And I'm told that if you take this little light and you just put it on your seat looking down, you can turn off all the lights. No one can see it, but it gives the
an invisible emitter. That's a great idea.
It's invisible to everyone except for the headset.
Yeah, it's great. It's an Amazon.
It does seem. Yeah. I've seen a few. It's infrared torches and flashlights and things. But I have seen also that in the new beta software that it detects that a little bit more. Now it says it's low light, and then and it says that to enable it again or something, or like it was disabling some things. In fact, in Zoom last night, I was trying to turn my video on and it wouldn't turn it on because it was too low light. I didn't think it was that low light. It wasn't like I was sitting in the dark, but it couldn't do the persona unless it had better light. So that was interesting. All right, next question.
Craig Kadoki in Toronto writes in, did Apple make the avatars lower quality than they could to make it obvious it's not a real image?
Alex?
Yeah, I think it's more of as Grant was talking about earlier, it's more of that camera image is not actually very sharp. And number one. And number two is I think they're trying to stay on one side of the uncanny valley. So we're very, very close to the uncanny valley. We're leaning over the edge of the uncanny valley into the cliff, but we haven't fallen into it. If it was much sharper than it is now, we would really notice that the animations were not as good as they could be, and that some of the little minute things, by making it just a little softer, I think it buys you a little bit as well. So I think that it's a little bit of that there's a limitation to the photography, and there's a little bit that there is an attempt not to do it perfectly because you'd see the shortcomings of the animations more clearly.
CJ?
Alex nailed it. I was just going to be like, hey, if you think we look a little off now, just you wait. Like, let's go a little bit further, because there's no doubt. I mean, they probably have enough horsepower to take this a little bit further, but the lift to get this from where we are now to the other side of the valley has to be so incredibly intensive and so difficult of a problem to solve that this is as far as we're going to go without making it feel really spooky. And there's no doubt there's some things like I'm talk with my hands, and so I've resized the zoom window 3 times while we were in this response, so I have to work on that. I also have to gesture out in front of me like I'm like I'm doing a zombie walk as opposed to my normal thing when I'm on camera. But kind of like we said before, though, it's remarkable the degree to which it's able to use all of the accelerometer data and all of the cameras and put together some of those micro expressions and put together some of that emotion that we really don't see in avatars. And it's doing it in real time. Like, I know it's like when I get angry at a cell phone call and then that drops. And then I have to remind myself, you are talking to someone from the middle of the Adirondack forest, right? Like, how incredible is that? Your voice is going to space and then it's coming back to the other person. Like, amazing.
I'm always amazed. I have a fair number of conversations with Chris Marler, who runs the school in Rwanda, and we'll have it at like 6 o'clock in the morning before I come on to office hours, and we're just casually jumping on Signal and talking a little bit about the school and things that are happening in Rwanda, everything else. And then I get off, and every once in a while I just go, okay, I'm just having a casual conversation with a friend with no specific need. And they are 8,000 miles away in Africa. And it's not like a thing, and it's and anytime you like you forget when you're talking to Hosmuk that he is a long way away.
So true.
Or Mickey or Grant or anyone else. Like for us, I mean, you just that we don't think about being separated in space and time is kind of an amazing thing.
It really is. Yeah, the fact that we can do this, we're not thinking about the countries that we're in or anything. We're just, it really is impressive. All right, next question.
Jason Robert Shaw in Sarasota, Florida writes in, can you move around with spatial streaming, or should the iPhone be fixed, considering doing spatial animal encounters at our aquarium?
Alex?
Yeah, so what we found was that we could definitely wander around. You just want to be slow and smooth. Slow and smooth when you're in because you're not, I think the rules will be different in 180 degree because that's their entire frame. But when they're looking at a 16:9 window, I think that you can move around inside of that frame, and you can, again, it's be deliberative, be focused, be looking for the next place you're going to go, think about where you're going to stop. And I think you can move around. Now, if you're talking about animals that are above water, I think like the otters, that's what I think about because I think about Monterey Aquarium, the otters and a lot of the other fish and everything else, I think would be really interesting. I have to admit, I'm still kind of wanting to do something that I'm afraid to do. I'm waiting to see if I get the 16, I may take the 15 to a tide pool and just see how it goes, because there's a whole, like if I drop it into the water, it's supposed to be rated, at a certain, up to, I don't know how many feet, but it's not like it's at least 6 feet that it should be able to go under.
At least 6 feet of ingress for at least 20 minutes.
But the question is it, what will happen to the antennas? Like, will it actually be able to continue to see a cell tower when it's underwater? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think that a tide pool underwater would be kind of amazing. Apple has done some, you can, in their examples, you can tell that they've shot some 3D with fish and sharks and so on and so forth with some camera that they have, not an iPhone. But they are experimenting with spatial capture for underwater, and it's pretty cool. So
my immediate question for that would be, go ahead, CJ.
And it's not that it's, when Alex is doing it, it's not that we're just shooting spatial video. He said, is there cell tower coverage? So Alex took it right to, can we stream from the tide pool?
That's the plan.
Let's got lost on that.
Yeah, that's the plan is put it in a pole. The idea is to put it on a pole and just drop it underwater and be able to move it around and see what happens. So we'll see if we can pull it off. But I'm not willing to do it with my current phone. I am foolishly thinking about doing it with the last generation phone because science.
Apple Care Plus, what? So why not? My immediate thought was, how will water distort lidar?
Well, I don't think it matters because I think that, again, I think the 3D is not really using. I don't think it's doing any lidar. I think it's just two lenses that are seeing what they're seeing.
Well, that shouldn't matter at all then.
Yeah. So we'll see.
I like that Alex said, if I get the 16. Like,
yeah,
I like to keep everybody guessing. I like to keep everybody guessing. Sure. But I mean, I look at it so far. I think Apple's very clear that a lot of us want a new camera that does some other things. And so, usually you'll notice that the demo for the camera is right at the very end. So we're all sitting there waiting to decide, and so I think that if it was a seriously lackluster camera, I've skipped like one or two iterations. No, maybe one. And the problem is in Mac Break, I feel like I'm behind the whole time. Like if I skip an iteration, then when we're talking, it's hard for me to keep up with the conversation. So I think I only did it 1 year.
It's good excuse.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's only two Alexes, right?
It's only half a VisionPro. Okay.
It turns out to be about 3. I mean, because I get the most stuff and a thing and a thing and a thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Now, the thing about the live streaming underwater was that Alex is always about interaction and questions. And so we want to be able to ask questions of the dolphins be able to get
Exactly.
some answers back.
Exactly. We need a
like
two-way
live.
conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
like we did an underwater with a diver. We've done a couple of them. We've done two or three with divers. One that was in the Baltimore Aquarium and with the sharks, and that we did that one with Discovery, and then we did another one where they were off of a shelf, where you were able to and so we were basically beaming connectivity to a ship that was out in the bay, and then it was wired down. And the biggest problem is actually dealing with the fact that they're constantly using that respirator. So you hear this, they have to like pull in enough so they can talk.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had to rewire their audio because the way that the diving units work is different than our comms, and so we had to build a kind of a custom connection to make that actually work. But it is so cool, like going underwater with fish, with underwater cameras and everything else, whether it's stereo or not, is just an amazing experience. You're wandering through this world that we don't get to see, and then just reading the questions that are coming in over text is enough, or we had it set up so they could actually have people in a hangout asking questions, which was fun.
I want to know if noise assist would actually get rid of that respirator. Probably wouldn't.
Zoom probably would. The Zoom noise reduction would probably get rid of it.
Got to get some of those collars that they had in Up, and we can get the sharks and the dolphins in on it.
Yeah.
Marcelo, back to the question.
Yeah, back to the question. So, like Alex said, well, you could, try to keep it steady in a tripod or something, but in an aquarium, I don't know. I've been to some aquariums here in New Jersey or Philadelphia, actually, and there are some places where you can see the glass and there's water behind the glass, so you can stand there. And I imagine, I never tried this, but I imagine that would be really cool to just put the phone like close to the glass. If the water is clear and the fishes are moving, that might be a thing.
The trick with the glass is how thick is the glass, and whether you pick up reflections in the glass is really the problem. And so what you want to do when you press up against glass to capture it, what you want is something that can go around it so that is black. So you want to black out anything that could be bouncing off from behind it. And so we've done ones where we've literally taped the phone, like into an area where it's against the glass and it's got a black surrounding it to make sure that there's no reflections coming back to it. And then it looks pretty good. And we haven't done it with aquarium, but we've done it with some other glass. There's a pinball machine museum in Alameda, and I took some video of it, but I didn't take it in stereo, and I'm still regretting it and going to go back and do it again. But it's a clear glass on the outside, and all the machinery is in there moving while someone's playing pinball. And I was like, I got to put the phone on the thing. But it had a big rule about not shooting videos, so I didn't want to go crazy. But I'm just going to now ask for permission.
Just make it the last thing you do.
Exactly. You can anything. You can do anything once. Yep.
Right. Well, and that was it. But I remember doing this in the Fifth Avenue with a Apple store with a cube that is a glass, and I was behind the glass, like in the street, and I was just shooting there, and it looked really incredible. Like when it's not fish, right? But it's like they were going downstairs and then people moving, and that sort of feeling when you watch it in spatial, there's something magic to it. But that was it. It's with me, daylight, like outside, I'm shooting at the cube that is very well lit. So yeah. And then I think that's pretty much it, as long as it's steady, it should be pretty good.
Yeah, I have found that there can be a lot of movement that you're shooting, or there can be movement of the camera, but ideally not both. That's
kind of like the balance. Yes.
And for the most part, you want to minimize the amount of camera motion. For the most part, what you want to do is slowly move to a place and then let the experience happen in front of you. And 3D, that's a big deal, is constantly be looking for opportunities to move a camera and then stay put and let things happen in front of you.
Yeah, one of the Thailand videos I was telling you about was just looking at a fountain, and it was just a stream of water coming out, and that's in the forefront, really, really close. And just sitting on that holding that that frame is just mind blowing, because you can see all the little drops of water that are spraying out and in 3D, like it's an amazing experience. And so that's a good example of something that is very straightforward, but experiencing like that is hyper real, like it's real, but it's going to another level of being able to see that, unlike the naked eye.
Yeah. We are, going crazy with the new use cases that are popping up every single day because of the simplicity of, like Alex said, streaming in spatial, like in one tap, let's go. There's a lot of things that can go on, and we can try, and we can see that it works, and it's incredible, and it's really an adventure. Yeah, I really like it.
It's like if you listen to a recording of a piano sonata or something like that on a really, really good hi-fi system, and for a minute there, it sends chills up your spine, and you are moved by it, and then you pause and think, "Oh my goodness, it is impossible to hear this in the real world. It is impossible to be inside the piano while someone is playing." But that's what it sounds like.
For me, it's always been a cello. First time you hear a cello in a space in real time, it's just
something about it. This is almost the corollary to that with video, and that this is a hyper real. This looks something greater than you can perceive just by walking outside, especially with those with limited or low vision. It's a chance to experience things in a whole new way. It's pretty moving.
Yeah,
really is.
That's right.
All right, next question.
Craig Kadoki in Toronto writes in, can the XREAL glasses be used to watch the content streamed or recorded on VisionPro?
Alex?
Not natively, but if you capture it and it's in the MV HEVC format, you should be able to take it into compressor and convert it to a side-by-side or convert it to another format that would work on there. I haven't tried that yet. And I have those glasses. I haven't tested it yet. But that should work. You should be able to convert it to one of many other 3D formats from the MV HEVC, or at least a couple of those formats in compressor, and then from there you can do the cross conversion.
All right. Next question.
Jason Robert Shaw in Sarasota, Florida writes in, were you able to use the, QCam EGO 3D camera for TWiT? If so, how did it work? What about the Kando VR cam?
Yeah, so I used I did not shoot anything there. What happens with me a lot of times is I'll be working on a production, and if things get too complicated, I will start cutting. I have a whole bunch of things I want to do, and I will very quickly pull my elbows in. like I'll just there's too many things that aren't working. So I have a bunch of things that I'll do if things are working. And because I was having some trouble with the audio, and it wasn't quite what I wanted, and there's people there, I'm trying to get started, I just ditched the QCam. I just was like, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to, because I will very quickly. I think the mistake people make in production oftentimes is they do everything they thought they were going to do without taking into account that there's variables that aren't working. And I will very quickly, maybe too aggressively, pull variables out very fast to simplify something. So the thing that I came to do works. And so I always know what my priorities are. So it fell off. I'm going to be doing some head-to-head tests this week with it. So I do have the QCam Ego, and what I want to do is I have this little rig that I'm kind of putting together that has the iPhone, and then I can attach the QCam to right above the iPhone so that I can kind of take some photos where I do both of them. And I have a theory that the QCam will look nicer because A, it's 4K per eye, B, it's 60 frames a second, and C, the interaxial distance is 4 times wider. So I think that it's going to look much more 3D-ish when I compact it back to MV-HEVC, but that's my working theory, and we all know that theoretical knowledge is almost as bad as no knowledge at all. So right now it works in my head, and by the end of the week, it'll either work in the real world or it won't.
Good. Jason?
Yeah, just to back that up, one of the neat things about humans is that although the width of our faces may change quite a bit, the width between our pupils is very, very specific. And that's one of the main problems with the iPhone, is that those two cameras are really, really close together. And as such, switching and pulling them out aside a little bit would help.
It also makes it, the one thing that does do is it makes looking at things close up a little bit more. and you gave it to somebody and they shot something really close, it would cross your eyes oftentimes with those things, because one of the problems with these stereo cameras, iPhone included, is that there's no convergence. So they're both shooting straight ahead. And the reality is that our eyes turn in. If you pull your eye close to you, and if you're pulling it close to your eyes and you cross your eyes will cross, because they're converging on your eye. And so you don't think about it that much, but it's actually one of the problems that they get into with CG characters and so on and so forth, where they have dead eyes, is because they're not converging well to what's in front of them. And so it's really that convergence is really important. And so the iPhone kind of handles a little bit of that by being close. So we'll probably find that there are things that hurt a little bit more on the QCam. Now, sometimes when you're taking landscapes, I've had my stereo cameras as much as 5 feet apart, and that creates this kind of odd, hyper real 3D feel of a landscape. That because now suddenly at 5 feet apart, your 3D effect at things at distance at 20, 30 feet still look very 3D, but you
like
can't look at
HDR
anything
for depth almost.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't have anything close to you, because it'll just make your eyes cross because it's too far apart.
Okay. Jason, were you also?
No, you got to me.
Yeah, you got that. Oh yeah, we did that. That's right. It was Alex that jumped back in. I've already moved to the next question. Let's go to the next question.
Ken Jordan in Wexford writes in, would you consider doing a VisionPro extra hours at a time more friendly for us VisionPro panelists who are European based?
Well, let's just say, Ken, great to hear from you. But I as an Australian can't sit by and have people complain about not being able to access things at a comfortable time. I've spent 4 years of my life having to get up in the middle of the night about this time. I think it's about 3 o'clock or so in the morning in London at the moment, or about that. No, but seriously, I think that we can. And Alex, it would be great for us to do. Ideally, we do something every 8 hours, right? That would be the goal.
It would be. I mean, I think that, we want to make sure that we don't overstretch our capacity, overstretch what we're doing, overstretch what's available to folks. And so, right now we're just experimenting with this and getting it up to speed. The big thing about using vector and building into the cloud, though, is that you're going to see us as we start to move forward into the fall. We want to have more people learning how to use vector, more people building their own systems, and us being able to do that. But what that means is that we can have a larger pool of people that can put together shows. Shows can overlap. We don't have to have another set of $50,000 of hardware to set it up. It's just a cost per minute or per hour to run it. There's a whole bunch of advantages that we can see from that scale that we're pretty excited about. So this is the beginning of that. By the end of the year, I think, my goal is to get to a point where there's a set of scripts that anybody could use. Like, hey, you want to start an office hours style, whatever, and you hit the button and it just builds all the instances, does all the things that are necessary. And you have one of our style of show, whether you're using it for us or whether you're using it for yourself. And we're hoping that other people will use it as well. So we'll do more as we get. Right now, we're still in kind of an MVP mode, so.
CJ?
And as our first piece of feedback, they're asking for more. So I think we can consider the VisionPro episode at least semi-successful.
Somewhat. I didn't intend for it to only be talking about Spatial and VisionPro, but it's good that it did. And it's okay.
How often do you get to hang out with 6 or 7 people who have them?
Never.
Though, right? I mean,
that's straight up never.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I've seen it. I don't think I've seen a 6-person like podcast or live stream, with VisionPros on the. This might be one, maybe not the first, but pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. Well, yeah, and Ken, it reminds me too. I think there are several more people in the office hours community that are VisionPro owners, but we just don't know. So it would be great, Alex, for us to build out a Discord channel for VisionPro owners specifically, because I think we'll do some more testing and stuff on that, and make it easy for people who join to just be able to start following that channel. will be great. So but yes, Ken, I'd be up for that. I mean, I can do something at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon my time, and which would be morning for you, and that would be great. So I'm open to that, and we can explore that a bit more. Okay, next question. Last question.
Next
Yeah.
question. Last question
no.
is panel content recommendation of the week.
Oh, that's a good little reminder. So CJ.
So if you have a Vision Pro or know someone with the Vision Pro, the content recommendation would be your photo library. Go back into your panoramas, go into photos of landscapes. Or I was actually at a concert the other week, and it was Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. It was the last show of the residency there, and I took a picture, and I was in the back row of kind of the lower bowl. So everyone beneath me is like sweeping outward, and then there's the floor, and then there's the stage. That photo had so much depth in it that when I took it into the Vision and I did the little spatialize this photo that's part of the beta, it was just the most incredible. It felt like I was there. And it's the photos has been a sleeper hit for me as I've been able, especially the panoramas, to go back through time. If you're not a Vision Pro person, there's an awesome band that I love called Lake Street Dive that everybody should listen to. They've been around since like 2004, 2005, met at Boston Conservatory as jazz musicians, and now they do just generally awesome stuff. Lake Street Dive, worth checking them out.
All right, CJ, what's with raising the stakes with doing 2 content recommendations, one for Vision Pro and one for not? You've set the standard now. We'll see if Jason can do it too.
Okay, boy, consider the gauntlet thrown and right in real time. Okay, if you have a Vision Pro, it's not going to be content, but this is a physical thing that I've found to be very handy, because taking the Vision Pro, making sure everything's perfect, getting it out was really annoying for me really, really quickly. So what I got is on Amazon, you can buy a cork head that in Hollywood is used to pin wigs to personas, and I got it for, measured my head and made sure that it was exactly the right size, and it's actually on my shelf when I'm doing the panel. And the Vision Pro is just resting on it, and what it allows me to do is take my Vision Pro off very, very quickly and then just stick it on a head that just happens to be precisely the same size as my own, so that it's out of the way, it's not going to fall into anything, and it's not going to get hurt by anything. And you can just get like a small, the one that I have came with a clamp, was maybe $30 total. Can't give you exacts, but yeah, I'm sure you can find it if you look for a cork head on Amazon. And non-Vision Pro, oh boy, I just saw Deadpool with Wolverine, brand new I'm no longer. I really kind of hate 3D for IMAX, but IMAX 2D Deadpool was a lot of fun.
Nice, Alex.
Yeah, I'd be curious how much 3D they did in that movie. I haven't seen it in 3D, but that's the hard part is that the cheap 3D is really hard to watch on a big screen. So cutting out cards and so on and so forth, that's the challenge there. I will say that I have benefited from, CJ was talking about the panoramas. From the first day panoramas were available, I was shooting them. So I have like 600 of them from all over the world. And it's just this amazing, like the Vision Pro has become, this great way to go back to Turkey or go back to, Rwanda and, like see what I shot back there when I thought it was going to be interesting. There's a lot of things that Apple's done that pay off. Like I have, 600 and some movies on Apple TV, which means that my Vision Pro immediately paid off because all those movies were just instantly available to watch. I would definitely, if you haven't on the Vision Pro, if you haven't looked at the new spatial videos that Apple's posting, the Rhino one is the one that just makes you just pull up when it comes really close. I don't know what it was about that shot, but I just noticed I jerk every time I see it. And that's not, most of it, I don't have that experience, but it's a thing. As far as music, I'm going to do music anyway. Kevin last weekend, Kevin and I missed this show because we went to see a band called Dengue Fever, which is Cambodian surf rock. And I love listening to it. Kevin got me hooked on it because he listens to it while he works. And it's so much fun. The band was amazingly good. I mean, just really, really fun band to see. So if you see them coming through your town live, they do tour around, and they are on a tour right now. Definitely look for them. You'll think, wow, I'm not going to go. Why would I go see Dengue Fever? Totally worth it. Totally worth it. And so I would highly recommend it.
Very good. All right, we're going to go to Marcelo in a second, but Craig, if you have got a content recommendation, just have that ready. Marcelo?
Yeah, well, like everything here is great. I think the trailer for Immersive from Apple, the new one, is pretty mind-blowing, especially when they mix all the sports and the things that are coming, which are incredible. Like, to be honest, the same has the Rhino effect. I think there's a part of that. Well, I don't want to spoil, but it's incredible. You just have to watch it. The basketball scenes, like the basketball shots, are amazing because a basketball court is like really well lit, and that's pretty incredible. And then, well, like Alex said, Dengue Fever, I think it looks pretty awesome. And maybe, Alex, we can share that link. And if people have the VisionPro,
you're more than welcome to
get it.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to share it. If you send me the link, I'll post it wider.
Yeah, I will share it with you. So because we can do that, right? Put it in the server and just share it like at a spatial video to watch and stream. And it's nice because it doesn't have the blurry borders. You have a full
it's
clear,
nice and sharp.
Nice and sharp. Yep.
That's great. Craig, did you have something?
I'll triple down on the panoramas. You know, you go to somewhere and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You whip out and you do a panorama, and then you never open it again. As soon as I got the VisionPro, I started going back through hundreds of panoramas that I shot and tweaked and then left on the shelf. And it was just so amazing to go back and see those, especially if there's people or other things going on in them. That was really amazing and a joy to just go back. Non-VisionPro, I'd say I have a podcast I love, which is it's basically the AI breakdown. It's a daily podcast, and he does a really good job of talking about what's going on with AI and how it's affecting individual people and their productivity. And it's a really good podcast.
That's great. What was it? The AI breakdown.
The AI breakdown.
Okay, great. Excellent. So it's interesting. We haven't spoken in the last couple of hours. We haven't spoken much about immersive. We've been speaking about spatial and stereo. But yeah, I think about the immersive stuff is really the access all areas idea, or places that you cannot go normally. And they're already showing that. I think standing on the basketball court, Marcelo, is your example. Like just being right there next to the action, or the in the recording studio with, I can't remember her name, the artist, but Alicia Keys, thank you. That type of experience that it's not available to you. It's not available to you, and so then it's making, I even think about, not to get political, the idea of the Oval Office, or, but, like places that you don't have access to, that, when conversations are going on, or whatever that is, I think about those sorts of places that immersive would just be amazing. And I know we've talked before. Okay.
I'm super excited about artists playing for immersive. I've already started lining up artists. As soon as we're going to start doing some of this with the iPhone, and I think Todd Reynolds will probably be one of our first folks. But Hosma, one of his family members, is a Mbira player, and so or marimba, I think. Anyway, and I'm looking at different opportunities in different countries of bringing artists together. But when and that's just in the phone, but when the new Blackmagic camera comes out, I definitely plan to do, and the problem is I don't know if I can do live streams, but I definitely plan to capture some stuff where an artist is sitting right in front of you singing. And I think it's going to be a great experience at 8K per eye, 90 frames a second. It's going to be a different thing than what we've seen before.
Well, we're going to have to have to wind up the bandwidth more than 20 meg to be able to
Oh,
get
yeah.
it live. But if there is a way, Marcelo, you've got to be onto it. Make it, see if we can get there.
Yeah,
A
I
mere
know,
100
I
megs a
know.
second. A mere 100 megs a second.
I know.
Yeah.
I think that the good thing, like to Alex's point, the good thing about the tech that we created here, there's no limit for the bandwidth as long as you have it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's kind of like super impressive for us, and we're expecting, of course, to get our hands into these new cameras and see, hey, we happen to have an incredible good connection. Let's shoot it, right? And yeah, so this is really, really exciting. Seeing an immersive live, it's gonna be a surreal thing because
Yeah.
we're talking about VR 180. We're not talking about spatial video, which is a
No,
different
that's right.
scene.
Mhm.
But in spatial, there's something to it, right? And I don't want to go back to it, but it's this is what I said. It's like a window to another reality. That's how good it
Mm.
is. And
Mm.
you know, that 20 meg stream that Alex said that we were testing the other day, it was so incredible. And when he got into the audience, like he got back. I remember, Alex, that you were shooting closer
The
to the stage.
saxophone player walks into the. I'm walking. I don't know where he went because he's just got a wireless mic on.
Yeah.
And he got out of my frame. So you see me sitting there on the stage, and suddenly I realized, oh, he's in the crowd. And so I just turned around, and you can see him playing sax through the crowd. And then he comes back on stage, and it was very spatial. It was a very spatial moment.
It was a special moment. But then the other one, there was another stream that hit it at 4K 20 megabits per second or 1080p at 1020. And then you showed the kids, and they were like playing there. And then you got back for like a crazier angle.
Yeah.
And we seen the people in front of us and the stage behind it. Like we were like there, and it was surreal. Like that's a window, like I said, a window to another reality. It's really cool. It's really cool. Like, yeah.
That's great. That's really good. Well, I want to say that each of you on the panel, you are very spatial to me. You're very spatial people.
Oh, likewise.
That was good. That's how we close this tonight. Yeah.
That's right. So we have got the traversal numbers have come in. What have we got there? 18,000 miles, 29,000 kilometers, or 144 million bananas for scale. There we go. The first time we've been able to have the little count there. Thank you for that. Thank you for the team in the back end. Kevin doing his magic, and 1F Jeff and Taylor are playing around with some things as well there. It's
and Laura
Alex.
keeping the questions rolling.
She would do great.
I've done a show or two without her. I've done a show or two without a question manager. It's no fun. No fun at all.
Yeah, she does great. Thank you so much. And we'll see. I'm interested to see what people think of how we made all this work. But I think there's clearly a lot of discussion and interest in VisionPro or Spatial in general. And so whether we continue to do it in this fashion or in another way, we'll see. But otherwise, we're back again next week with extra hours. And tomorrow morning, what's happening tomorrow morning, Alex?
We are going to be talking about SIGGRAPH. Nick Jushishin is going to be in, and he just got back from SIGGRAPH. He spent a week there, so we'll be talking about trends, releases, what's big, what's not, that kind of thing. So it should be fun.
Love it. 7 a.m. Pacific live. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Double waves. Here we go.
See you later.